Welcome to this week's episode of Nooga Connection. I'm your host, Scott Davis. When we started this show, we told you we're going to show you some places to go have some fun, to have some adventures, but we also wanted to get serious. We want to make a difference in our community. And so we brought you various community leaders to talk about their perspective and what's going on in Chattanooga and how we can improve our community, because there's always room for improvement, right? Well, this week's episode really hits that nail on the head. We're going to be joined by Pastor Chris Sands of Olivet Baptist Church. Also, we'll have Mr. Elijah Cameron from the Bessie Smith Cultural Center. And of course, with our dog and cat of the week, Mindy Kolin from the McKamey Animal Center. But first, we're going to be joined by Sunshine Heath from Bigfoot Adventure. You will enjoy this. You want to have some fun? Are you looking for something that's really fascinating, interesting, and not too far away? Well, let's talk to Sunshine Heath, who is with Bigfoot Adventure. Welcome, Sunshine.
Hi, Scott. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for coming on. Well, tell us, Bigfoot Adventure, what do you all, I'm just going to say it in the broadest sense, what is Bigfoot Adventure about? Where are you and what do you have to offer?
Bigfoot Adventure is a perfect place. It's a family fun adventure. So as soon as you come in, there's tons to do here. We have zip lining. That's going to be our main attraction. It's an 8-course adventure. So it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get through. It gets through a variety of different landscapes. So you get to go over ponds, you get to go through trees, and then over across big open fields. And then also, on the last line, you actually get to race with somebody, which everyone has a lot of fun with that.
What are the ages that are allowed to do the zip lining, Sunshine? How young? That looks like a young man that we see. How young can the kids be to go on that?
So you have to be at least 5 years old, but it's more about the weight limit. So you have to be at least 50 pounds.
What about the upper end for some of us who are concerned about that? Is there an upper end weight limit?
300 pounds.
Okay, okay. All right, so you guys just zip line on this property. That property looks massive. How large is that?
500 acres, actually.
Holy moly. All right, so in addition to zip lining, I know you've got other outdoor adventures. What else is there to offer for those of us who, we were talking before, how did COVID affect you? And you were telling me you're doing well because it's safe. It's social distancing and you're outdoors. What else do you offer in your outdoor adventures?
So we have an RV park and campground. All of our RV spots are 80 by 40 pull-through spots, 50-30 amp hookup. So they're really good for first-time RVers or experts. Either way, people love it. And then we also have a bunch of tent camping sites available throughout the entire property. We also have 3 catch and release fishing ponds, as well as a disc golf course, and a lot of hiking and biking trails as well.
Yeah, and you were saying you love working there because you're an outdoors person and you love hiking, but you've also got shuttles that take people to something pretty cool. Tell me about that, Sunshine.
So nearby, about 20 minutes away, is the Caverns, which is a music venue. And right now they are running tours just to see the cave because it's a music venue inside of a cave. So it's a really neat experience. People have called it the Red Rocks of the East. It's just gorgeous and just a neat experience overall. So we provide shuttles for guests that go there to have a safe ride to and from their place of stay, which a lot of times is here. But you know, we will take you to Monteagle, to Manchester, wherever you're staying.
Very cool. Now, I want to ask you this. You are known as a very desirable wedding venue as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
That's right. So we have a few different venues here. Our most popular one is going to be the Point, which is a beautiful bluff lookout with a little chapel cover there. And then what a lot of people do is they have their ceremony there, and then they're moved to the big farmhouse cabin. And that's also on a bluff as well, but it's a really open concept, so it can probably fit about 75 people more if you're utilizing the outdoor space as well. But beautiful windows on the bluff side. And then we also have the clubhouse if you have a little bit more of a guest count that you can use for your reception, and then maybe use the farmhouse for your rehearsal dinner. And then we have a few different cabins as well. So people can also stay in the property. We have a groomsman cabin, and then we also have the farmhouse that people will stay in. So there's just a good variety. There are outdoor venues, there's one indoor venue, and then the other two are indoor, outdoor.
Wow. Now, you were telling me that one of the draws that you have is that you guys are always developing and creating new ideas and new things. Is there anything in the works right now that you can share with us that's not too top secret?
Yeah, so we do music every third weekend of the month. We also are wanting to do something for Halloween, maybe like a haunted hayride, and then add some haunted ziplining adventures in with that. We're probably also going to do yoga on the bluff. So that provides a good outdoor space for people to do that. People haven't been able to do, exercise classes and stuff like that all inside. So we wanted to do something outside, and why not on the bluff, right?
Yeah, no kidding. So I really am. I'm afraid to go back to the gym, and something like that I would definitely be up for. So we are, as you know, broadcasting out of Chattanooga. Where are you? In other words, what town would you say you're in or near? And how far are you from Chattanooga proper?
We're probably only about 45 to 50 minutes. We're really close to the interstate in Monteagle. So we're right into Tracy City. However, we are very, very close to Monteagle. So you just hop off the interstate right there in Monteagle, exit 134 or 135, and then it's probably about a 10-minute drive out our way.
You know, we haven't gone on a family vacation this summer, and my kids let me know about that. And I tell you what, I will definitely be coming and visiting your property. It just looks like a wonderful time. That zip line, I'm terrified of heights, but I would love to give that a shot. So, Sunshine, where do we go online to find more information about everything you have to offer?
So you can go to our website. It's bigfootadventuretn.com. And I would also suggest following all of our social media pages, our Instagram, our Facebook, and our Twitter, because we do post a lot of information about events and such on there as well. So just to stay up to date, I would definitely give us a follow on there.
Oh, perfect. Sunshine, thank you. I know when we got started this morning, it was 7 o'clock your time, and I'm very grateful for you coming and sharing with us. This is going to be a lot of fun. I hope to see a lot of my neighbors and friends out there at the Bigfoot adventure. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me, Scott. I appreciate it.
Congratulations, Jessica Russell of Hickson, winner of the dashcam sponsored by the Davis firm. Listen, the response has been so positive. We're going to give you another chance to win this week. Go to NoogaConnection.tv for your chance to win another dashcam. Nooga Connection is sponsored by my law firm, the Davis Firm. I spent 15 of my 26 years working for insurance companies on the dark side. Put that experience to work for you. Protect yourself, protect your family. Look me up on www.noogalaw.com or call 423-756-3591. Well, let's introduce Pastor Chris Sands, who is a youth pastor at Olivet Baptist Church. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Scott, how you doing today?
I am doing great, and I thank you so much for your time to come on here today. I know from talking with you how busy you are. Let's talk a little bit. We have had, so Rabbi Craig Lewis mentioned you and in glowing terms. So we had to reach out and look you up. And I tell you, as I've been researching you, you have been a busy man.
Yes, sir.
COVID-19's hit. How is the church, first of all, how's the church dealing with that? What are you all doing?
Well, first, Scott, thank you so much for having me today. I'm honored to be on Nooga Connection today. And thank you to Pastor, I call it what Pastor, excuse me, Rabbi Lewis, and for the
That
great
works.
honors. And so I'm grateful to be on here. But the church has been instrumental in a lot of the things that have been taking place during COVID-19. Not only have we been in the heart and in the midst of the pandemic, but also a couple of months ago, remember, there was also a tornado that stormed through Chattanooga, and several of our members were hit by that as well. So Olivet has been on the forefront of serving since the pandemic has happened. And it has been one of those things where we really get to become what I call the hands and feet of Jesus. We're not just talking about church, we're actually being the church. And it's been absolutely amazing to be able to do that. But not only that, we also have had COVID testing here. So
Oh, wow.
we have actually had COVID testing with Simple Community and various other partners where, excuse me, we brought testing to the church. And after people got tested, we also gave out pizza, and we gave out food, produce boxes to families that were in need. So we're literally being the Great Commission, what I would like to call it.
Oh, yeah. So Olivet Baptist Church has been a bright beacon in this community for a long, long time. You have a very dynamic senior pastor at your church. But I want to tell you, I want to get into a little bit about this. You were saying that you gave out produce. You're doing a lot of community projects. Can you share some more with us? I understand you giving out backpacks and helping the homeless.
Sir.
Can we touch on that just a little bit?
Yes, sir. So my Bishop Kevin Adams, I always want to honor my man of God. He has a vision for people. He loves people so much so that it has been intrinsically inclined into the culture and the climate of our church that we serve people as well. So we literally have fed every Saturday anywhere between 600 to 1,000 people on Saturdays. We were feeding before COVID happened. We were feeding 5 times a week to the homeless. They would come in and get a hot meal. They'll get a word. And then, if whatever needs we could meet, we will meet those needs as much as possible. So that is the culture and the climate of our church. But not only that, we also have an education component where we want to make sure that our young people are equipped, our young adults are equipped, and we even doing some things for those who need their GED or high school equivalent. So our hands and feet are literally engulfed and ingrained in service.
Yeah, and reading your bio, I mean, your bio on the church's website, you're all about reaching out to people regardless of age, race, background. I mean, you are I don't think any of us are colorblind, but I believe that from what I've learned about you, you tend to try to be as colorblind as possible in your approach to the Great Commission.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And so let's talk a little bit about this, Chris. We got this, the Black Lives Matter movement. And, a lot of folks that are not from the Black community, some understand, some don't understand.
Yes.
Gosh, why I thought all lives matter? Because the church, I mean, you and I know, so, I've told you I'm also Southern Baptist, but you and I know that the church is not the 4 walls and the beautiful building and the choir. Tell us what the church is.
The church is going after the one. I think a lot of times we negate to read our Bibles, and we forget stories where we say we're Christians, but we don't understand that all lives does matter. But also in Luke 15, when you have the opportunity and you read Luke 15, the shepherd left the 99 and went after the one. the one was just as important as the 99. And a lot of times we forget that. It's not that the 99 wasn't great, but the one was just as important. And I don't want us to ever forget that, you know, all lives does matter. But right now, we need to be discussing what is taking place with Black Lives Mattering. If you look at the media, if you look at the news, when you look at what's going on in our society and our world, what the world is just now being recognized to is what a lot of us have been experiencing for millennials, for millennia. So it's very important for us to have an understanding of why it's important to understand what is really taking place right now. And I also would say this before we stop on this. My goal is for people who don't really understand to come serve. Come find out how to serve and listen to people who may not look like you, may not have your background, and really understand what others are going through. So yeah.
I definitely want to get into that. Let's get into that at the end, because I think that's an important topic. But I want to talk a little bit more
Yes.
about the Black Lives Matter. So I have had a lot of conversations with what I do, and some people saying, well, how do you love someone who hates you? And so you have certain pockets of people who are not in the Black community that think that they are hated. And so, you know, Black Lives Matter, that's not the message. I know that's not the message, but let's talk about that, because you're the first person that I can actually ask this to, who is feet on the ground, who can maybe help those of out there who don't understand. Black Lives Matter is not about exclusion. It's not about hate. And when you get the person that says, well, how am I supposed to love you when all I hear is that you hate me? Can you talk a little bit about that with us, Chris?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Scott. I think that is a undiagnosed preconceived notion that some people may have. A lot of times we have our own biases that we already put up a fence or a wall. And do we really make ourselves vulnerable enough to really get outside of our spaces to figure out the differences between us? Because truth be told, if we actually go to the heart of the root of certain matters, we'll discover this. Number one, need doesn't have a color. Poverty doesn't have a color. So a lot of times, when all we're accustomed to is our circle, that's all we see. It's not until we get outside of our circles and get into different spaces where we see people who are different and start building relationships. That's the key part. If we never build relationships or find people that we can ask real questions to, there will always be these unprecedented preconceived notions in our mind that we think people are against us, when really they might just be having a bad moment, or that might be just the demeanor on their face. It doesn't mean they don't want to talk to you, but have we really reached out to see what is it that I can do to lend a hand or ask questions, if that makes sense?
Oh, absolutely. And you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. You're out there reaching out to all people. Yes. You read some of these opinions, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there's someone who writes a lot of opinions, and something I keep seeing is, well, we're told that Black Lives Matter, and they do, but why is there so much black on black crime in this community? Why is there so many young Black men murdering each other? What would be your response to that? I don't think because there's one huge problem that changes the conversation, but how would you respond to that person that keeps putting that out there? Well, if Black Lives Mattered, why are we getting so much black on black violent crime?
Are we really having a whole lot of black on black crime? Are we really doing that, or are we highlighting
that's
a
a good
particular
question.
segment? Are we really what we're talking about right now? I wish we had a whole lot of time, because I'm giving you surface on purpose because of time. But when we go deep and start intrinsically looking at why people are where they are and why people do what they do, I think the conversation is needed to be had on more than one occasion to be able to have a great context of what it is that people are dealing with. So let me try to give you a little clarity of where I'm coming from with this. So say for instance, Scott, and I hope this makes sense. When the media a lot of times want to get your attention to focus on one particular thing, you hear it long enough, if it's true or not, you start to believe something about it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true, it's just what you're being fed. Truth be told, there are segments of people who really, there's more crime in other ethnicities that never really get heard about per se, because we've been focused on, and the media has taught us to really focus on this when really it's only like less than 5%, but we highlight it and we magnify it and we make people afraid of people who potentially look like me because of a small sect of people who have done certain things. My
Yeah,
question
yeah.
then
So,
is, go ahead.
well, no, and I really think that you're making a good point. We complain about the media, and yet we believe the segments of stories that we hear. So, like lately, there's been a tremendous mess in Chicago. I can't even figure out. I lived in Kankakee outside of Chicago, and I'm so grateful that
Yes.
I'm not in that area anymore. But
Yeah.
when you see something like going on in Chicago, what does that do as a believer, and if someone has a heart
Yeah.
for people like you do and like your bishop
Yeah.
does? What do you, when you look at Chicago, what do you think? Do you think, is there anything we can do for them? I mean, this is such a broad question. I don't even know what the good answer would be. But Chris, I'm just wondering, how does that impact you, a lover of people, a lover of the Black community?
Yeah.
What do you do? What
Yeah.
do you think? What's going on up there?
Let me say this: Black lives does matter. Black on black crime is real, but so is crime. Period. Bringing attention now to what's going on. It was Frederick Douglass that said, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." There are a lot of broken men who are dealing with issues and traumas and dealing with not having enough, and being in certain communities where you are a creature of habit, and based on whatever environment you grow up in, sometimes you will make choices based on the environment that you're in. And me being a lover of people, I don't have the expanded reach to reach everybody, but here it is: we cannot make impact without contact. So until we go out and really get to understand why, then we'll always have what is going on. You know what I'm saying? We'll always have this mindset of, it's this crime, and things of that nature. But if we start building up our young people and giving them new ways to create, both black, white, and different, if we allow, I would say it this way, you can only grow to the level that you're exposed to. If we can get young people and other adults exposed to different cultures, it will change our paradigm. It will change the way that we see people, and it'll change the way that we love. Yeah. So that's why service is so important to me, because like I said earlier, when you're serving someone genuinely from your heart, color doesn't matter, status quo doesn't matter, and we begin to figure out that we're more alike than we realize. Melanin,
You
we're
know,
all people. It's just we're the human race.
what you just said there, because this is a recorded segment, I hope people listen to it more than once. There is a lot to unpack with what you just said. I have told you and shared with you that I served a lot of years in the military, and I think no organization is perfect, but as far as being integrated, the military is about as integrated an organization as I've ever been involved in. I also told you I did criminal defense work in Athens, Georgia. And of my thousands of clients, the vast majority were African American. And I did get a feel for what's going on in the community. I got a feel where I would meet this drug dealer, had this incredible organization. I would say, you're an incredible marketer. You're an incredible leader of men. Why are you not doing something worthwhile? And without fail, I'd get the same response. You going to hire me? Who's going to hire me? I don't have an education.
Absolutely.
I don't have the background I need. Wow, that's heavy what you just told us. Let's talk about service. Chris, since you and I have been talking, you have asked me numerous times and used the term service and even asked me to come and to Olivet Baptist Church to serve. That is obviously your passion. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's make some invitations. What if we had every listener from this program and all their family come to Olivet Baptist, knock on the doors and say, Pastor Chris, what can we do? Tell me, why does that matter? What will that do?
That's a great question, Scott. We'll understand community better once we serve the community. Not just one time, not just twice, but actually really finding ways to serve in various communities that we're not accustomed to serving in. So for instance, this Saturday from 9 until 1, we're going to be serving 600 to 1,000 produce boxes again. And if you want to come serve this Saturday, come see the different people. It'll change your perspective. Why? Because of the fact that, like I said earlier, need doesn't have a color. Poverty doesn't have a color, but it's important that we really reach people. That's how we build community. That's how we build and bridge gaps. That's how we get the resources that we need to make Chattanooga stronger. And there are people from every walk of life that, we should be able to build relationships with and say, what can we do for the city of Chattanooga to strengthen it so that we can be the best city that we possibly can. That's why service is important to our church and why service is important to me.
And that's what we should be doing. Chris, this has been a really terrific segment, and I appreciate what you've said and what your perspective is. I do think that a lot of distrust is driven by fear. And as you said, when you serve alongside somebody, that fear is going to dissipate and you're going to understand that that's a human being. I never feared my clients. I'll tell you one more story before I let you go. I know we've gone long. I was at a gas station in a particularly difficult neighborhood, particularly frightening neighborhood, pumping gas one evening. I'd just been talking with a client and it was a bad case. And I was in this neighborhood already and a little fearful, let's be honest. Car pulls up beside me and doesn't park at the gas pump. And out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody get in. I'm like, oh no. And I'm thinking, well, if they try to attack me, I guess I can just squirt them with gasoline. I don't know what else to do. And I heard this deep voice and said, Scott, what are you doing out here? This is dangerous. It was this huge man, African-American, one of my clients. He says, I'm going to stay there with you. I'm going to stay here with you till you're done pumping gas. Wow. He knew me. It's relationships. He didn't look at a white lawyer. He looked at a guy he knew. I think that, like you said, we serve together. We get to know each other. That removes so many they're buried. Chris, I thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Keep it up, and you will see me out there, sir. And I'm going to pop you on the shoulder and say, here I am. Put me to work.
Scott, I love it. Thank you so much for having me today.
Tell me how to find information about this, what you guys are doing, and how to get involved.
Yes, sir. You can go to our church website, www.olivetbaptistchurch.org, or you can download our church app at Olivet Baptist Church and get all our information, or you can call the church at 423-266-8709. We would love to get information. We have a lot of things that we are doing here in the community that we can get everybody plugged into. So we're grateful for it.
Thank you, Chris. Much respect, my friend.
Yes, same here. Thank you, Scott.
Please like and share this video. Like our page, subscribe to our channel, and we're also available as a podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Listen to Nooga Connection while you're running, driving, or just relaxing. Today, we are going to learn more about Chattanooga's Bessie Smith Cultural Center. We are joined by Elijah Cameron, the Director of Community Relations. Hello, Elijah.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. And if you don't mind, from our conversation before, I just don't feel comfortable calling you Elijah. I'm going to call you Mr. Cameron. Mr. Cameron, would you please tell us the history of the Bessie Smith Cultural Center?
I could do that. Actually, the Bessie Smith Cultural Center came about in two ways. One, it was originally the Chattanooga African American Museum, which was founded back in 1983. Well, they say 83, but I know that it was conceived earlier on, somewhere in the 70s, late 70s, by 10 visionaries. These guys were looking at actually being able to capture, present, and capture, preserve, and then present the African American history of those who had made a significant impact on the growth of Chattanooga. As you know, back in the '60s and things of that nature, our history was not a part of the American history books. So we had to ensure that our history was told, and those visionaries here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, understood that, and they wanted to do something that would help us to realize that there were those African Americans in our community who helped the growth of Chattanooga. So that's how the Chattanooga African American History Museum came about. Somewhere around 2009, the museum was changed to the Bessie Smith Cultural Center in order to pay homage to Mrs. Bessie Smith, Miss Bessie Smith, who grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, who was born in Chattanooga, down in Blue Goose Hollow. That's on the west side of ML King Boulevard, down on the riverfront now, where all those new condos and things are going up. So, in changing the name to the Bessie Smith Culture Center, Chattanooga African American Museum, we were able to pay homage to her, being one of the greatest blues singers in the world. As you know, she was recognized as the Empress of the Blues. So we were paying homage to her, recognizing that as a little girl, she sung up and down 9th Street, which is now ML King Boulevard, up and down 9th Street for nickels and dimes to help take care of her family. Her parents, I think by the time she was 9, both of her parents were deceased. So, and the children had to do what they had to do in order to survive.
Wow. We were talking earlier with our producer who's in London, England, and his mother, who is in her 70s, found out that you were coming on and said, "Oh, Bessie Smith, I love Bessie Smith." That woman had a reach. She was known worldwide, and she's still remembered worldwide, and she grew up on our streets.
She did, and you're right. She's still known worldwide. We have a lot of people come in from England and Germany and places of that nature. They come because they want to know about Bessie Smith. They've read about Bessie Smith. They've heard about Bessie Smith. So they come looking for artifacts on Bessie Smith and listen to some of her music in the museum. We have a video in the museum that the films that display Bessie Smith in one of her roles. So we're actually excited about being able to present some of the dialogue on Bessie Smith, and also to be able to talk about Bessie to our children now who don't know anything about Bessie. Unfortunately, Bessie was not one of those things that were taught. Was not one of those blues singers that were taught in school because of I'm not sure what it was about, but still there were a lot of things not taught about African American history in our schools.
Yeah, and so you have taken now, you told us about the Cultural Center and the history. You are now using that history to present to our children today. Tell us, what is the mission now with the Cultural Center?
Under the leadership of our president, Ms. Paula Wilkes, and the leadership of our board chair, Mr. Yusuf Hakeem, we've identified a lacks in the museum. We have to be able to come into the to the digital divide area. So what we're doing now is actually filming people reading books on African American history, the Voting Rights Act, some other book that talks about African Americans and their deeds in the city, or in the country, to be able to show our children that even though they're at home during this time, to show them that it's important that you know your history and understand where you come from. We're trying to ensure that we get this message out, and we're doing it via the internet and Facebook, social media, and things of that nature. It's very important that we continue to talk about these things while our kids are quarantined in the house, so to speak, and not able to get out and go to school at this particular point in time. Well, of course, they're back in school now. They're supposed to be. So we're working very hard. We're working very hard to continue to bring this message. The museum is now moving into the digital age. We know that there are going to be some changes once we come out of this pandemic. There are going to be changes. So we are preparing ourselves to be able to reach whoever we may need to reach via the internet, social media, however we need to do it. We think
And
it's
you have
very
Bessie Smith. You have Bessie Smith's front porch now, of course, because it's
yes.
closed during COVID. And I want to talk to you about two things with that. Number one, first of all, you have had some heavy hitters on there. I mean, you have had business leaders, top professionals in corporations and companies, and the majority of them are people of color. Now, Mr. Cameron, you've told me you're sending a message. Share with us, what is that message in bringing in these people?
Well, we wanted to make sure that people saw people of color, our kids saw people of color doing these things, and understand that you can do this also. You can learn. You can become a professional. You have the opportunity to do whatever it is that you want to do in life and be successful. All it does is take a little hard work, and that's with anything you do. Any accomplishment that we make involves hard work. So we bring in these professionals, we bring in these top people to talk about these things and to read to our students to help them understand that we're still human. We still put on our pants and our dress the same way, but we understand that there's a profession out there that's for you, but you have to work hard for it.
Yeah,
So we
great
want to
modeling.
inspire, we want to inspire them and help them to understand that you can do whatever it is that you want to do in life. All you have to do is work for it.
Now, there also are some very poignant and deeply painful messages that you have shared. Can you talk with us about a couple? First of all, I'd really like to talk a little bit about the two brothers who witnessed the firebombing of their home. You were telling me one was coming home from Vietnam. You tell the story better. I don't want to ruin it. Mr. Cameron, please share that with us.
Well, yes, certainly. We brought the Edwards brothers, John Edwards and Levine, and his brother Velitas Edwards, in to discuss the impact that the civil rights movement had on their family. Of course, their father, Reverend J. Lloyd Edwards, was a civil rights leader here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and he was someone that was forceful about the things that he was doing, even though it was a peaceful movement. Their house was bombed. So we brought them in to talk about the impact, Velitas being the younger brother, John being the oldest brother. John at the time was coming back from Vietnam when their house was being bombed. He's in Vietnam fighting for this country and some other people's humanitarian rights. And his house is being bombed because his father was trying to get equal rights for all the people. So that was a heck of an impact on their lives. Then John told me he was angry for a long time. The leaders, being one of the younger brothers, understood that there was things happening to them that had never happened before. So they came in to discuss the way they felt and how they became involved in different things as they grew older, and the civil rights leaders that they met along the way. And one being John Lewis and the other one being C.T. Vivian, who recently passed. Both of those men passed during the same week. So it was very important to get that message out for people to hear about that, especially in this environment that we're living in at the present time, to make them understand. Yes, it was very important.
What can we do? What can our listeners do to help get this message out? You know, Mr. Cameron, I grew up in North Georgia. I remember a young man coming to my house, young white kid, and it was clear that he hadn't bathed in some time, and he was hanging out in our bathroom for a long time, and my mom said, leave him alone. And he didn't have hot water at his house. And, you know, so, I mean, poverty really does exist everywhere. People who don't think they have an opportunity, they don't know of the opportunities, and they've never seen it modeled, exist everywhere. I think what the Cultural Center is doing is critical at this time and at all times. What can we do? What can our viewers and listeners do to help get your message and spread your message?
Well, certainly, I think that if they would share the information that we present on our YouTube, on our Facebook page, or come to the center when we are open again, hopefully it will be soon, come to the center and see what we have to offer. In the future, make donations to the center to help us continue to do those things that we're doing. Certainly, we feel that the Bessie Smith Cultural Center has a real message to get out to the community. I think we are significant as a history museum. We need to be able to tell a story. I don't think anything would change in America until America start telling the truth about history, and that's very important. So, if our listening audience would help us share this information, then certainly I think we would start to make some strides in our community toward being equal. It's very important that we talk about these things.
Well, you sure?
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, that story that you talked about with the Edwards brothers. I mean, that made I spent a lot of time in the military. That made I got goosebumps when you told that story. We don't know that history. It is, you know, ignorance is not necessarily a bad word, but it is ignorance. And that story has to be shared so that people of all races understand why there's this chasm, and then that'll help us breach the chasm. Mr. Cameron, you have been a delightful and very informative guest today. I thank you very much for your time, sir. Let's go on the website. Let's see or the Facebook page right now for the Bessie Smith Cultural Center. Let's help everyone out and get this message out. And Mr. Cameron, thank you so much again.
Scott, thank you so much, and thank you again for even thinking about the Bessie Smith Cultural Center in this way. Certainly, we appreciate the time and effort that you are putting in to make Chattanooga a better city. Thank you so much.
That's very kind of you, sir. Thank you. Protecting your young driver. Is there anything more important? I have a teenager. Parents and I talk all the time about our kids getting behind the wheel of a car. What can we do to keep them safe? Number one, I'm a firm believer in a driver's education course. I took one back in the early 80s, and I learned so much that my peers didn't know about driving safely. Also, my parents got a discount on their insurance, which I understand is still offered today. And there's also a lot of insurance companies that will offer a good student discount. Check that out as well. But the most important thing is not about saving money. It's making sure that your children have the skills and the knowledge to drive safely. That'll give you some peace as well. Number two, make sure that you have sufficient insurance coverage. Get on the phone with your agent. If you do your insurance online like I do, find someone to talk with you. Make sure that your coverage fits your situation. Don't let a boo-boo leave you in the hole, okay? I mean, kids make mistakes. Check it out. Make sure you've got sufficient coverage. And finally, and thirdly, a dash cam. That's obviously not something we had when I was a kid. And despite my driver's education course, at times as a 16-year-old, I might have showed off a little bit. However, if I had a dash cam, front and rear facing, I would not have done so much because my parents would have taken my car, or we didn't have cars when I was a kid. We used mom and dad's, but I wouldn't have gotten the privilege to drive mom and dad's car, okay? Dash cam's really good. We talked about this before, the protection it gives you, but it also will give you a chance to monitor how your kids are driving. That's pretty important. Listen, I'm going to make this easy on you. Win a dash cam. Go to noogaconnection.tv to sign up. Protect yourself and protect your family. And please like and share this video, like our page, and subscribe to our channel. I really do want your feedback. Please let me know what guests you'd like to see, what information you'd like us to share, what you'd like for us to talk about. Reach out to us via our website at noogaconnection.tv. Comment on social media. Make comments on Twitter. I've been heckled sufficiently there, but continue to give me feedback. And we really do appreciate good, positive comments to let us know where to go. Critical comments. What do you want to see and what do you want to do? It means a lot to us, and I thank you for that. It's now time for my very favorite segment. It's going to be the dog of the week and the cat of the week. And here to share those with us is my good friend, Mindy Kolin from the McKamey Animal Center. Hello, Mindy.
How are you?
I'm so glad to see you again. And
hey.
You are going to share some babies with us today. Who is our dog of the week, Mindy?
So this week we've got Tuck. Tuck is a big dog. He definitely is not for the faint of heart. You have to be strong, you have to be active, and you need to be able to take him for a run, because he just took me for a run coming in here. And now I'm going to need to schedule a little bit of an adjustment. Tuck is amazing. He was an owner surrender, sadly, because he does require a lot of attention. He has had some separation anxiety, but he's gotten a lot of time in the offices here and hanging out with all the different staff and going out with our level 4 volunteers. Tuck is also used in groups with some of the dog groups for behavior assessments. So he's really, really sweet. He's good with other dogs. Not necessarily a fan of cats. Which, is why we're not going to actually show the cat of the week. We'll talk about her, but you're going to show some photos. But Tuck is available for adoption. And as you can see, he's a big boy. What you're seeing on him, he was rolling around in the grass and there's something sticky outside. So he's got a little hair loss right here. It's actually just a different color, but the rest of this, his coat is perfect. So if it looks kind of weird through the camera, it's just because he needs a good brushing. Because he was playing around outside. We've got the pools out there to keep them cool during the day. The weather is just so hot and humid. So he's been out there having a ton of fun.
I love the way you take care of your animals. I just want to say that. But what's cool about Tuck, I could see an athlete get Tuck and run with him in the mornings, afternoons. And then, Mindy, I'm going to share your secret. Tuck was laying on the floor and we talked about you laying on him and using him as a pillow. Once you get done with the run, you've got your pillow right there.
That's it. Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought earlier I might just have to do this laying down on the floor. He was just chilling out.
So Tuck,
he's a big one.
Is he ready for adoption now? Could someone come in and get him today?
Yep. He's totally ready. Schedule an appointment. You have to complete an application online at McKameyAnimalCenter.org. Schedule an appointment because we are by appointment only. And I really need to stress that we try and let people in if appointments don't show up, but I don't encourage people to just walk up and take their chances, because the likelihood is you're not going to be able to get in the building. We are very, very conscious of following CDC guidelines and limiting the numbers of people in the building. So definitely schedule an appointment.
Oh, somebody needs to give that boy some love, and he will give them some love.
You can tell he needs extra handling since there's a second person helping me out today, and I'm not even in the shot with him.
He's a beauty. Thank you.
Honey, look at that. There you go. He's a big body pillow. Big body.
Thank you. We love you, Tuck. I hope that next time we talk that Tuck is at a home, and let's make that happen, guys. Get Tuck.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
He's going to force you to get your exercise. I probably need something like that as well. All right, Mindy, well, let's talk about our cat of the week. Who do we have this week?
We have Amelia. There she is, sweet girl. Amelia is an adult cat who is looking for a forever home. She had a wound on one side, so she's recuperating. She's a little thin, needs to put on a little weight. But because Tuck isn't a fan of cats, I didn't want a chance bringing her in and just having any kind of trouble. Amelia is an FIV positive cat, which is feline immunovirus. And so one of the things we like to educate the community about is understanding that we do not euthanize cats because they're FIV positive. We know that cats that have FIV may be asymptomatic for years. And so we don't test unless a cat in the center is showing symptoms. And then once we do know, they're still available for adoption, but we educate the potential adopter about FIV and what to look for. So, fevers and lethargy, just unusual behavior, but FIV sadly is not treatable, but cats can live a very long, healthy life, even with FIV. They can transmit it though, so we do insist that FIV cats be indoor only, and it can be transmitted by a bite wound. So if Amelia were to bite another cat and it was a deep wound, it is something that she could transmit. So a one cat home and indoor only would probably be the best situation for her, but she is a honey of a cat. She's very sweet. She purrs. She just wants to be held. And so she is available.
And her coloring, is that what you call a calico cat?
Yeah. She's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. And we also, for people who are unaware of FIV, we have information on our website under the adoptions tab. We've got additional information about understanding FIV, testing for FIV and what that really means and looks like. Because we really pride ourselves on our live release rate of 89% here at McKamey. So.
Yeah, and what I love about our segments, Mindy, is you are showing us what I would call across the spectrum special needs cats and dogs right. as well. And people, how can it not touch your heart? Thank you, Mindy. Another great segment, beautiful animals, and I appreciate you coming on, sharing with us very much.
Thanks, Scott. We appreciate the time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for joining us on this week's Nooga Connection. And I'm your host, Scott Davis. We want to give a huge, heartfelt thank you to our guests, Sunshine Heath of Bigfoot Adventure, Pastor Chris Sands from the Olivet Baptist Church, Mr. Elijah Cameron from the Bessie Smith Cultural Center, and of course, our friend Mindy Kolin from the McKamey Animal Center. Listen, we mentioned at the very beginning of this show that we were going to bring you some segments where you could have some fun, find out where to go, where to hang out, laugh, feel good. But also, we wanted to show you what's going on in our community, bring in some community leaders, tell you what they're trying to do to make things better. This week, I was particularly touched by two of the segments. Pastor Chris Sands sharing with us the importance of service, serving side by side with your neighbor, serving side by side with people of other cultures and other races, and realizing that we really are of one race, and it's the human race. And Mr. Cameron telling us about this poor young man fighting in Vietnam. Now, I'm a military man, so that always touches me. I remember watching the evening news as a kid with the death counts and the body bags and them showing live footage of what was going on in Vietnam. And this young man lived it. And he came home and his home was firebombed. If we think about the impact that something like that would have on a young man and on a neighborhood and on a community, maybe we can become more and more understanding. We do have to know our history. You guys who know me know that where my heart is, I think I know where Chattanoogan's heart are. We are making a difference. Listen, join us next week for another exciting episode of Nooga Connection. And again, I'm Scott Davis, your host.